Hi there, and welcome to Israel Explained. We are starting a whole new war edition. It's been clear that Israel is planning to pivot from the war in Gaza as soon as it's destroyed the brigades in Rafah to a war in Lebanon. Some of that is bluster, trying to get Hezbollah to be deterred, trying to get the Lebanese government and international community to lean on Hezbollah. But I also think that Israel means it. I think that if no political or diplomatic solution is found, and it doesn't look like one will be, Israel is going to actually attack Lebanon. According to the Bild newspaper, the German newspaper, Israel's planning to do that on the third or fourth week of July, the current month, the month that just started now. That matches reports in Politico regarding American intelligence reports as well. So this all seems very likely to happen. Now, the Israeli government is making it seem like it has no choice to pivot, that once it's done with its operation in Rafah, it has to restore quiet to the north and therefore has to invade Lebanon. That's not necessarily true. Israel does have, at least theoretically, a choice. Hamas has said that it's willing to reach a deal that will stop the war in Gaza um, and return the hostages if Israel is willing to fully withdraw from Gaza. Now, Israel still has things that it wants to do in Gaza. It wants to continue to try to arrest terrorists, kill terrorists, maybe try to kill Sinwar, destroy infrastructure that's being rebuilt, and there's a plan to build humanitarian bubbles in Gaza. The question is, are all of these things worth going into a war with Lebanon if there is the diplomatic chance of ending the war in Gaza? And that is a very good question. After all, Hezbollah has said that it will stop shooting if the operation in Gaza stops. And you might ask, why should Israel trust Hezbollah? And it shouldn't. But if Israel reaches a deal with Hamas and Hezbollah continues fighting, Israel can fight anyway while getting the hostages back. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. We need to keep in mind what a war in Lebanon would look like. A report from the Reichman University, that's the university in Herzliya, from their Center for Counterterrorism, a report that involved 100 former officials, IDF generals, that sort of thing, made an estimate of what they think a war with Hezbollah would look like. So here's what they said. They said it would be between 2,500 and 3,500 rockets a day that Israel will be receiving. Some of them high precision missiles, and some of them low precision rockets. They'll hit all over the country. They'll saturate Israeli anti-air systems. And according to this report, within a week, Israel will begin to run out of its anti-air supplies, while Hezbollah will be far from beginning to run out of their rockets. They have a larger supply of rockets because they're less expensive than Israel's systems like Iron Dome, David Sling, etc. Hezbollah will also use its drone program to attack the anti-air units, and it will also launch the missiles at anti-air units and at, in particular, the landing strips in Israeli Air Force bases. They'll also target Israeli infrastructure. Of course, Israel can do more damage to Lebanese infrastructure than Hezbollah will do to Israel, and it might do so, but we all know that that will also cost Israel incredibly in the international arena. It will be accused of war crimes against the population of Lebanon, etc., etc. The Radwan force, which is the elite Hezbollah force, will try to launch attacks into northern Israel, where there are still vulnerable, isolated citizens living in areas that have been evacuated. Larger areas of Israel will probably also have to be evacuated. When the Israeli military goes into southern Lebanon, what it will run into is a very serious tunnel system. According to Brigadier General Ronen Manelis, he said the tunnel system there is, quote, 10 levels above anything we have come across in Gaza, in terms of size, in terms of how booby-trapped they are, and in terms of the soldiers, the terrorists inside, and their training. Now, I don't say that this is something that the IDF can't overcome. It can. It will be the most difficult war Israel has fought in a very long time. The question is now the right time for it? There is an argument for that because Israel is already at war, has already paid a high cost internationally, and so on and so forth. There's two arguments against it that I think are quite strong. One is the hostages. Hezbollah will still be there in a year or two. The hostages will not still be there in a year or two. And we have to ask if the benefits of pivoting right now to Hezbollah and the benefits of the continuing operations in Gaza, which don't seem to be designed to bring Hamas to its knees, are worth their lives. There's also another more controversial argument against this, and that's government incompetence. I think a lot of people agree, a lot of people don't, but I think this government's been very incompetent in the way it's run the war. I think it's been very incompetent in the way it's done other things as well, whether we're talking about judicial reform, whether we're talking about trying to prevent Haredim from going to the army, which was one of their goals. Just today, they had to release a whole bunch of detainees, including the head of the Shifa hospital. They're not very good at their jobs, is how I would put it. And I have no reason to believe that the operation in Lebanon, which would be more complex than the one in Gaza, would go well. So because of those two reasons, I think it's very important to stop and think. Maybe it's time to agree to end the operation in Gaza. If Israel does not have a plan to defeat Hamas, to build a new government there, um, there really isn't much reason to continue the war there, which the IDF says it has completed its main tasks. A lot of people are now saying that the goal of the operation is to weaken Hamas. Hamas has been weakened considerably. The question is, will Israel also be weakened considerably if it goes into Lebanon? There are no easy answers here. Stopping the war now will give a victory to Hamas and will keep Hezbollah intact. The question is, does going into Lebanon result in the defeat of Hezbollah and the defeat of Hamas, or will it just result in further setbacks for Israel in terms of its status internationally, in terms of its fighting capabilities, in terms of the fighting spirit of its citizens, in terms of the lives of the hostages? I don't have any easy answers. But what I will say is this. Before Israel pivots to a war in Lebanon, it's a major decision, and a conversation needs to be had about the possibility of avoiding this all. Thanks for watching. If you like what I do here, consider supporting me on Patreon. Today, I will try to finish my podcast episode, History of the Land of Israel podcast. I will be here again when there are new developments.